So Emma's one of my longest friends here, and she's been there through my grief story, and she knew my mum and my family quite well, and then I was able to be there for her grief story, and up to now.
Yeah, I've got to let this go, and I've got to surrender this over to God. Probably closer to the time when they said, like, he's got weeks, that I just was like, we've just been praying for like years. And then Christy and I stood there and went,
Didn't want to say that.
Seeing my dad and all his glory, I was like, oh my gosh. I found that really hard. People are like, oh, if you need, it's like, I don't actually know what I need.
Yes.
Like, you need to just bring the thing to me.
And I'll say yes on that.
I'm not in a place to then call someone and be like, hey, yeah, can you just like buy my groceries? And at first I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like the idea of that, because then it's just kind of, you disappear, yeah. And I thought, maybe if he was buried, then there's a place that we can go to every year. But it actually was really great.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our Good Grief podcast. Today, we're joined by my special guest and my long time friend, Emma Barnes.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. So Emma and I grew up together. How long's it been?
Well, next year I'll be 20 years out of school.
Yeah.
So, and then when did you start in high school?
I came to King's in 1999.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, high school was 2001.
Yeah.
So, pretty much since then, hey.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we kind of knew each other a bit before that from church, but a long time, everyone.
Yes.
20,
wow, it's kind of
years
crazy
or
to
something.
think, actually. That's a long time.
So, Emma's one of my longest friends here, and she's been there through my grief story, and she knew my mum and my family quite well, and then I was able to be there for her grief story, and up to now.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Tell us a bit about what you do. Who's Emma?
I'm a high school teacher, and love the performing arts. That's my main thing. So I teach mainly dance in high school. And yeah, what else about me?
How old are you?
Oh.
Do you want to give that away? I mean, they know how old I am, so.
37 in December.
Woo woo!
That's crazy.
Don't look it. You're a babe.
Oh, thanks. Love life. I love to travel. Love food. Hang out with friends. I think the same old everyone likes. But
and we love a good boogie, don't we?
Yes. Oh, yes. Love a good
Emma
boogie.
and I have shared many laughs, tears, and good times.
Yes.
What's our favourite memory together?
Gosh, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was
yeah.
There was a cruise we went on to Great Barrier Reef.
Yep. That's North Queensland, everybody.
Yes. And
with
there
your sister?
with my sister, and there was a Bianco party, like a white night. So we got to dress up all in white, and there were no young people on this boat.
No,
but we
us
were
and the
like,
oldies.
we were like, let's just go for it. And it's still to this day. When was that?
That was probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, still to this day, it's like the best party night.
Hands down.
Dancing, just...
DJ just had it rocking.
Yes.
Every song was a banger.
Yep. And we created this, do you remember the dance
our
thing
triangle? We were like the Trinity moving, and we had people coming up to us next day like, you guys are so awesome, we're watching you.
I was just going to say, after that night, we had a reputation.
Yes.
So, every night, it was waiting for us to get on the dance floor, which was fun.
So good.
But that was a good one.
Yep.
There's so many, but that was definitely a good one.
A highlight. Yeah, a standout. So, tell us about your family.
So I have mum, and I had a wonderful dad.
Yes. Jeffrey Barnes.
Yep, Jeffrey Barnes. Didn't like being called Jeffrey, but
it was Geoff.
Geoff. And then I'm the oldest, and then I have a younger sister, Christy, and a younger brother, Joel, who just recently got married.
Yay.
So I now have another sister-in-law, Yashi, And she's from an Indian background, so they've just gone over to India to have their honeymoon and everything. So the family's all inviting us over. So I'm actually really excited to go and experience that.
The
It's
culture.
it's one place on my list that I haven't traveled to. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, they had a lot of like that kind of Indian influence in their wedding as well, which was actually really fun. My brother danced.
Hey.
Like by himself. It shocked us. It was quite fun. But yeah, grew up on the Gold Coast. Our whole family's grown up here, lives here. And yeah, I currently live in Brisbane, but I work down here, and all my friends and family is still down here and everything. So, but Brisbane to me is not too far away. So yeah.
So today we are specifically talking about your dad, Geoff. Mm-hmm. So tell us about Geoff and who he was and how he impacted this world.
Yeah. So Dad, gosh, he it's so hard to like describe how beautiful and kind-hearted and lovely he is. Every time that anyone that I anyone that I talk to who's experienced him or met him or whatever, always just talk so highly of him. But yeah, because we both worked at the same school teaching and everything, but one of the things that they said, and I hear them say a lot, people who worked with him, is like, he's a man of humility, grace, faith and love. And yeah, when he passed away, the school put out like an email or whatever to all of and that's what they said on there. And I just still always think of that, because I'm like, he was just so humble, and like he had doctorates in theology and biblical studies, but never would go by the name of Dr. Jeffrey Barnes or Geoff Barnes. And he was so servant-hearted, really humble, just loved on people and tried to serve them, and very faith-filled. Everything was God-centered.
Yeah.
And just a big lover, like a big teddy bear.
He was.
So always loved a good cuddle.
Even though he wasn't that big in stature.
No, he was a little man. Yeah, he was. He's little. But yeah, and even it's just so nice, because I mean, we worked in the same, so we work at King's, but...
Yeah, what was his role?
So he was the coordinator of the Certificate 3. So you used to be able to complete high school with the Certificate 3 in Biblical Studies, which was like a stepping stone into Bible college when you left high school. Yep. So that's what the seniors used to do. They've now stopped that, kind of ended when Dad passed, which was quite, it was like an end to an era. Yeah. But he did that for quite a few years. And yeah, so that was his role. So, and then I'm a high school teacher, so he worked with the high school students. So we worked together for quite a long time. Actually, we worked together. My first job, he used to be a chef as well. So my first job ever was a waitress.
Was he a chef at Cafe Campanelli?
Yeah, he was a chef at Cafe Campanelli.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So so he was that was his trade. Once he left school, he just went into trade, and
I remember he chefed. I just didn't know he was chef.
So he was there, and then that's how I got my first waitressing job.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of actually funny to think of now.
Oh, there you go.
It's like I've worked with him a few times in my life, but I was fortunate to also work at the same place, the last place that he worked too. So even now, still working there. I'm at a different campus, so I don't get to, like, it's a blessing in a way that I don't walk the halls and see his presence and reflection everywhere every day, but I'm still part of the organisation. So a lot of people worked with him, so it's so nice to kind of be able to talk to people about him and be reminded of him. So that's Beautiful. A real blessing. Yeah.
So today we're talking about anticipatory grief, because you had a journey with your dad similar to my mum with cancer. And so take us to when you first found out you had cancer.
Well, it actually like he actually had two, like it was twice, like happened twice. So the first time I actually came back to teaching in 2015, and it was so interesting because busy working, and Dad would be in the staff room office with us. But I just found, like, I saw him going to the bathroom quite a bit and had a bit of like a cough. And I just looked at him going, gee, he just doesn't look himself, or he's just acting a bit strange. And I, question him. It's always, no, I'm fine. Like, all's good. And anyway, things changed and he wasn't feeling great, and then went to the doctors, and then we found out that he had bowel cancer. And so in 2016 I wasn't teaching anymore. I was actually studying, and so I was quite hands-on with the first round, and just lots of doctor's visits and everything. And then went to with Mum and went through that whole process. And then he had the doctors kept wanting him to go do like chemo and like go through all the processes. And then there was just this, like, he just rapidly lost weight. And then there was this one day where we were looking at him and he just looked like death. Like, it was just quite shocking. He was like a skeleton of a man. And they kept pushing to kind of be like, oh, no, we need to do these processes, want to do this. And and then the tumor actually eroded. So it actually kind of exploded inside of his abdomen, and he was rushed to hospital. And we thought it was quite touch and go there for a bit.
Wow.
And then he came out of that, and he, survived that, and they got everything. And
Did he have any surgeries?
Yeah, so that he had a surgery.
Okay.
So they cut him open.
Sure.
He lost his belly button, which was quite a funny.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
After, like, because there was 5 years of remission after the surgery, but we used to find that quite funny because he had no belly button. But yes, so they cut
Jeff
him
was
open.
Always good for a laugh, though.
Yeah, yes.
He? So he would have taken
at
that
himself
in his stride.
too.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, like they cut him open and cleaned out the whole everything and
Wow.
removed part of his bowel, and and then he was cancer free and was going to the doctors and getting like checkups every year and everything. And then it was kind of just like back to normal
For a few years.
For a few years, and we were just he was getting a bit chubby. Because when you had bowel cancer, you just couldn't eat certain things, and like the diet was, and also being unwell, you just didn't want to eat or whatever. Mm-hmm. So once he was healthy, he was just like anything he could eat, he would eat. So he was getting.
He was a chef. He likes food.
So he was getting a little chubby there, but like it's kind of crazy because then, life was normal. We were all just, hanging out and doing family and life, and just, that happened.
And so then, when did it come back?
Now, then we were like, okay. And it was so strange because both times I had happened to get a contract at the school and I was there.
Right.
So then I had been out of teaching for a few years, and then in 2020 when the world was falling apart, I was working for a completely different industry, and that was going to end, and I got a call to come back to teach. I was like, okay, I think this might be right. So then I went back, and then in that year, Dad just, he was just kind of like feeling a little bit out of sorts again. And then he went and he would get a routine checkup. And then because of everything that was happening in the world too, it was kind of like, there was a lot of, instead of going in, he would go get bloods get done, and like it wasn't the same kind of process that was happening. It was kind of a little bit more of like over the phone or by camera or whatever. So he then ended up getting this checkup, and then he was feeling a little bit of something in his abdomen, and then they did a scan and checked, and then it was like, oh, it's back, and it was really aggressive. So it was quite large. I think it was like already about 10 centimeters, which was quite huge.
Sure.
So
then,
then,
how are you feeling in this
well,
moment?
Dad pulled me aside at school and was like, so I just want to let you know, yeah, I'm going to go get this checked. And I had a little bit of like, I think I was just in shock. And because I was also then reflecting back on everything that had happened the first time around, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go through that again. I was a bit of a like, I don't know how we're going to do this again. I think we've been living in this like, yeah, this dreamland for a few years and kind of forgot the reality of it all. So it was a real shock. But then I kind of just got myself into, all right, we just take it as it comes and just, all right, what do we need to do? And this is what we did last time, so let's just try and do that again. And but there was also like, it was a strange time. Like we were in a very weird like
State of the world.
And my sister was stuck in the UK dealing with like
Just trying to get back.
lockdowns and like so she ended up getting what are they called, the government flights to come back to Australia. And as she was kind of arriving back into Australia, that's when it was like, this is the diagnosis, this is what the process is. And
Was it terminal at that stage? Or were they just like, it's aggressive, you need to...
They they said that it was really aggressive and that it was in multiple parts of the body. At that stage, I don't think they had said the words terminal, but they just said it was aggressive. It was in multiple locations in the body. He had a few mets in his lungs and liver and this huge tumor in his stomach. And we were kind of like, okay, like this is a lot bigger and scarier than the first time around. And I think it wasn't until my sister, like, she was amazing. For me, the first time around, I wasn't working full time as a teacher, so I was kind of the one doing all of the trips and everything. But my sister had just come back from overseas. She lived with mum and dad for a while, and then she was kind of like their go-to person. And she's so good at... she's an attention to detail, and
she's good at organizing.
Yes, like brilliant. So she just she was Dad's right hand woman.
Yeah.
She just kind of went into like, I'm gonna try and make every decision I can to help and support. So she was the one who was kind of going with Dad to every appointment, and there was an appointment where they said, the doctor said to Dad, like, this is going to get you.
That's what he said.
Yeah. He's like, we can try everything, but this is probably going to get you.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when it was this is terminal. And yeah.
What month was this?
This is like where everything is like such a
bit blurry. Hey?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was about a year.
Christy was home, so she got home like January, February. So a couple of months after that?
Yeah, a couple of months after that.
Okay.
And then it was chemo, and let's try and shrink these as much as possible and like prolong life was kind of the game plan.
So what was your game plan? Were you like, how are you expecting to deal with this now? How did you attack this, going, okay, this could be the time that takes him?
Yeah. When I heard that, it was shocking, but at the same time, we had that faith journey too, where Mum and Dad were like, well, we believe in a healing God. And so I felt like I didn't really have an option but to also believe in faith.
Yes.
And I think like it's important to have the reality of hearing a doctor who, not to go against medical advice or anything. Like, I think it was just more like, no, like, we hear what you're saying, but I also, like, and we'll do all of the things, but we also just had a hope as well.
Yeah.
So I was kind of balancing that a lot of the time. And yeah, and just, we were like, as a family, we were really prayerful. Mum and Dad had like these like healing books, and they were healing prayers, and they were doing that every day, and people praying for them going to healing ministry. And for me, I was just every day just like praying. But the biggest thing for me through my journey was, in my life, just in other things, I've just really learnt the lesson of surrender. So I was kind of like, everything here is just so much bigger than me. And I need to like give it over to God, because I know there's nothing in my power that I can do to fix this or change this. So I just constantly, as much as I was frustrated and angry and couldn't believe we were going through this again, and just like, why, God?
All the feels.
Yes, like all the stuff. Thank goodness my faith is like stood the test of time, I guess. And I just, I was like, I just have to let it go, because if I carry it, it's not going to help me either. If I carry it, I'm not going to be able to help my family or be there for Dad either. So that was the biggest thing for me, I think, was just that, okay, I've got to let this go, and I've got to surrender this over to God.
Yeah, amazing. Was there any time your faith was rocked?
I think probably closer to the time when they said like he's got weeks, that I just was like, we've just been praying for like years. And I just was like, I'm not sure if I believe in healing. And that's when, and the hard thing is that I still believe that there is healing, like even after it all. But at the same,
does it happen
yes,
in my life?
Yeah, I just haven't seen it in my life. But that was probably, and it still is a thing that I kind of am working through now after it has all passed. Because
I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. But
because I have seen healings, and I've even prayed for someone who's gotten healing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've seen it firsthand, but then it didn't happen to my most special person.
Yeah.
And so obviously I just have to trust that
Yes.
God's plan is bigger. And
yes.
it's all.
Yeah. And I still have to do that too. And I find myself like, in church when they do pray for healing or whatever, I have to check myself. So it's a journey that I'm on right now, that I'm like, I just have to, because I can't like put different boxes in and go, oh, I'll believe in this and believe in that, and not in this one thing. Because I haven't firsthand experienced it. But not saying that it's a work that I have to go through in order to, and it might be for a while.
Yeah.
But it's still that surrender thing though. Like even in this situation, that he's not here anymore, I'm like, okay, well, I've got to just surrender that over as well.
Yeah.
How, and who am I to think that I know everything as well? You know, like I don't understand, but I'm also just human, and you are bigger than all of it.
And that's it. I don't think we're actually meant to understand it all.
No. That's
what makes us human.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
That's
agree.
what makes him God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how was your dad's faith through the journey?
He had some very strong, like he was very strong for majority of the time. There were moments where we would see, like we would get news from the doctors, or like something would happen, and then Dad would just get really, you could see like a bit defeated, or like questioning and being like, I don't understand. But the thing that really I remember is in those last few weeks in palliative care, the hospital, the nurses and doctors are talking to us about like his diagnosis and what we will expect and everything. And he's telling them like, and this really made me go, oh my gosh, like check my own faith. He's just there going, I hear what you're saying, but I believe in healing and God's going to heal me and I'm going to walk out of here. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, yes, Dad. Yep. Mm-hmm. Like, till the last day, like he was such a fighter, and all the nurses and doctors, everyone was just saying, because he wouldn't just sit still. He wouldn't just lay in bed. He got up every single day. He would walk the halls of the hospital, like just constantly all day. Like sometimes we would go visit and couldn't find him and he's walked up some hallway or
Geoff!
Yeah, like calling out for him, like, where is he? And then, Geoff's gone for his walk up this way,
And you told us they could find him by his tracks,
Oh
right?
my gosh. So
Tell us
towards
about
the
that.
end, I'm not sure what it's called, but there's like fluid retention within the body. So it doesn't know where to go. So it kind of just piles into the legs or arms or anyway, for Dad, because he was walking all the time, it would just, gravity would just take it down to, so his legs were weeping. But because he was walking everywhere, they were like, oh, Geoff's left his snail trail, because they have to put like padding around his legs. And yeah, so they would have to like clean up after him because his legs were weeping. So you just see this like trail on the walkways.
I can just imagine the nurses coming along with towels under their feet, like walking after him, cleaning up.
It's just, and it was, I mean, he laughed at that too. He was like, meh. What are you going to do? Like, he just was like,
me.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to lie down in this bed. I'm going to keep walking. So then they had like the, bed, like the, I don't know, like these sheets that they put on the beds just in case like people wet themselves or something. Oh, yeah. And they had them wrapped around his legs with bandages and stuff.
And then what happened? What was that last day moment you told us about?
So... Well, it was every day. Like, so I was really fortunate that, my school community, like once that we got the doctors, you got 2 weeks, I just pretty much said to work, like,
anytime.
Yeah. So I spent 2 weeks, just in the hospital pretty much every day, my sister and I. We just kind of like hung out with Dad and, like all of his meals and chat with him, go for all of his walks. And, and it was just quite like, it was a funny, like as weird as it was also like funny memories and like fun times, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like it was a horrible, it was like horrible circumstance.
But you guys made the most of it.
Yeah, like Dad did. So like he would, in the morning, he would go up to, nurses would get chocolates and things like that. So in his little walker, there was like a little seat with a little flap. And I remember one of our walks we went on and we're just like, slowly moving through the halls. And he's like, oh, stop. And I was like, oh, are you okay? Like, what's happened and everything? He's like, just hang on. And then he'd lift up the thing and he had stolen chocolates from all of the nurses and they're sitting in the seat of his box. He's like, go get one. So I was like, okay. So then I'm like eating chocolate while we're walking and stuff. So like even in the last few weeks, like he would find ways to like make us feel special or like, laugh or whatever. And I was like, what are you doing stealing? He's like, you do what you want. Like it's fine. He's like, they're giving them out. So I was like, okay.
He's like, Barry down the hall doesn't need them.
Yeah. So that was really cute. And then like, we'd watch the football on TV and, he's a huge Broncos fan and he's still there going, what are they doing? Everything. But yeah, it was just like every time, the nurses would come in and they would like have to change his dressings, and if you need to go to the bathroom or anything like that, my sister and I'd be like, oh, yep, okay, it's time to exit. And so for 2 weeks,
Let him do his thing.
Yeah. Give him his privacy and everything. So yeah, for 2 weeks we were able to like leave the room and go do something else. But and then it was just the funniest thing in that last
It was the last day.
Yeah. So we'd been called in the night before, and we'd been there from like 4 because they were like, this is it. And we were like, oh, okay. So it was his parents and my sister and I sitting there. And then he just chirped up and he was all good. So there was we were there the whole day then. So we were like, okay. It's so weird, like this kind of like, oh, it's happening. And then you kind of prepare for it and then it's a false alarm. And then you're like, oh. So then there was this day where everyone was kind of visiting as well. And
what happened?
So the last day was really hard for him in that the nurses were like, you need to stay in bed. Like and he had spent every single day in palliative care walking the halls. So
yeah,
he was so restless and like wanting to get out of bed and everything. And we're even there going, like, I know that he wants to get out, and he couldn't really like communicate too well. So he was saying bathroom, and we were like, okay, and so we're getting the nurses to come, and then they were like, oh no, we won't. Anyway, so it got to this point where no one was going to do anything. So we were like, is he going to just, I don't know. So he's like trying to get out. So we were like, okay, sure. So we were like trying to figure out, his dad, my granddad, my sister and I are trying to figure out a way to get him to the bathroom on his like roller chair thing. So we got him out of bed, and I don't know, it was a miracle that we even were able to manage this, but we got him out and put him on, got into the bathroom, and Christy and I are like, okay, yep, so do we help? What do we do? And then my granddad just kind of goes, yeah, and we're like, but we need to help him. And then my granddad kind of just like pulls the nappy thing off, and then Christy and I stood there and went,
didn't want to say that.
Seeing my dad and all his glory, I was like, oh my gosh, all right, so we like kind of went, okay, granddad, you're good. You go there, we'll go over here and stuff. And we just like, Christy and I just laughed. And then anyway, after that happened, and then he got back into bed and everything, we told the nurses, and they were like, they thought it was hilarious too, because they're like, how did you even manage that? Like, how did he manage that in the state that he's in? And we always talk about it too, because we were like, it's actually just this really funny moment. Yes, and we'd spent 2 weeks avoiding this situation, and then on the last day we were like, okay, well, that just happened.
Happened. There we go.
Yeah.
So tell me, was there anything in these like final months that you read or heard or someone told you or anything like that really helped you?
Well, you mentioned to me one thing, which was that with you and your mum, that you didn't actually capture the moments or ask the questions, or so when you shared that with me, I made sure that I had the conversations, and I spoke to Dad, and I asked him questions, and I took photos and made those kind of memories. And I think that's also too, like in that last 2 weeks, like that situation I was just saying, all of those things became like funny, or like memories. Like they're not ideal memories, but they're quite funny memories or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think was just to capture them, or like to ask the questions and to talk real things as much as I could.
Yeah.
With him.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you've told me before that you were already going through therapy.
Yes.
And so you were able to talk that out. And how did that help you?
Yeah, well, I was seeing a therapist, I think also too from the first time around, I just realized that I was kind of like holding on to things or like hadn't worked through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and also just life in general, I was like, oh, it was just really helpful to talk that through. And then when Dad got his second diagnosis, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm here again. So a lot of stuff came up from the first time that I'd suppressed or like I hadn't dealt with. And so it was really helpful to talk that through with a professional. But as much as you can talk things through with friends and things, it was really great to just kind of have, someone who could like pinpoint this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it really helped me kind of process that in my own life, dealing with Dad going through what he was going through, and also then to support family as well. Because I felt like that helped me a bit in that the reality of what was happening, I was able to kind of understand or manage or process it a little bit easier than others. Yeah.
So good. Was there anything that wasn't helpful?
I think the thing that I struggled with was people not wanting to ask. And it's hard, like, and it might not be the same for everyone, but for me, like, I didn't want people to be asking me all the time, how's your dad? How's your dad? And then I have to give this terrible news all the time. And that was hard. But I think that if no one had asked
At all
would be worse.
Yes.
And now too, like after he's passed, people not asking. Like I think it's so much better when people actually...
It feels like they're forgotten.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you need to talk to, I mean, it's maybe not everybody, but like close people to me or people who knew Dad. I think it's really important to keep talking about the person.
Absolutely.
And if they are going through something, the other thing would be like, don't offer like help or support if you're not actually
Gonna go through it?
Yeah. I found that really hard. People like, oh, if you need, it's like, I don't actually know what I need.
Yes.
Like you need to just bring things to me.
And I'll say yes or no.
Yes, yeah. Like even when Dad actually passed, it was like, you know, if you need anything or, but one of the best things that I received after Dad had passed was friends from school. They bought like a $200 Uber Eats voucher.
Oh, amazing.
And just sent it to us. And I was like, you don't understand how much that meant. Whereas like a lot of people offered, and it's not that people aren't genuine. It's just like, I'm not in a place, even during what Dad was going through and then after when he had passed, I'm not in a place to then call someone and be like, hey, yeah, can you just like buy my groceries or can you just do this
come over
for me?
and help me clean the house?
Yeah. I think the best offers of support were the ones that people just made the decision for me.
Yeah, so good.
And just because even too, like when Dad was sick, people just did send over food and bought us groceries and
so nice.
Yeah, and just did that. So that was really helpful. Yeah.
And so, has the school done anything to remember your dad, to honour him, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so
he was there for a while.
Yeah, he was there for a while, and it was it was a surprise to us that I guess the impact that he had made. But they ended up. So there's a senior. Like the year 12s do like a graduation dinner and they have awards on that night, and they named the Senior Christian Character Award after Dad.
Oh.
And that was their decision. They just came to us and said that's what they want to do. They're also they're doing some renovations, but they're also, when staff have passed, there's a few that have passed, they do a tree planting.
Oh.
So they're also going to do a tree planting for Dad, which hasn't happened yet, which will also be another great thing to remember him by. They did the Year 12 graduation, and they named the Christian Character Award after him for his work with Christian certificate ministries. But for me, they ask a family member to present the award. So, I had the privilege of doing that this year. So it was
How
12
cool.
months after he had passed.
What an honour.
Yeah, so got to go and they do a bit of a spiel, but it was just so wonderful to sit there and then to hear them. Oh, I was standing on stage, but to hear them talk about Dad and then to then pass this award on to a kid
And to think that
who showed the same, like it's because it's meant to be the character that he displayed in his life. Then there's a kid who the teachers and students nominate for. So there's like a specific criteria, which is a criteria about who my dad was.
Sure.
But the other thing that's really special is that we get to do that every year.
Yeah.
So that is something that's really, I think, really important when the people you love pass, to actually have things that you
Legacies,
do.
traditions.
Yeah, like something that you do every year that
honours and celebrates them.
So that's one of them that our family get to do. And even though I work at the school, I'm like, oh, that's really great, even if I did that every year. But our whole family could go up there and do the same thing. But also too, we created another one when Dad, he wanted to be cremated.
Yes.
And at first I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like the idea of that, because then it's just kind of
gone.
You disappear, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe if he was buried, then there's a place that we can go to every year. But it actually was really great because that was his wishes. So obviously that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But he was, cremated, and we as a family spread his ashes into the ocean down at Burleigh. And now we were like, oh my gosh, like all oceans are connected across the world. And
This is true.
yes. So we were like, oh, this is actually really wonderful because every year this is something we could do. And it just happened that 12 months after Dad had passed, my sister and I were not on the Gold Coast. So we were actually in Newcastle. And we were like, oh my gosh, there's a beach here. So let's go. And so we were able to like go walking our feet into the ocean and have kind of a moment. And we were having a bit of a laugh and being like, hey, Dad, and like talking out to the ocean. But it was actually it turned out to be quite wonderful, because we're like,
beautiful.
well, now every year, doesn't matter where we are in the world, if we move or if we're traveling or on that date, then
feel connected
we just
by the ocean.
Yeah. So something that I was a little bit against at the start and thought wouldn't work out to now has turned into something that we can do every year, like a kind of a tradition to do.
Tell us more about coming up to your first year. I remember we were having a chat a week before. I think,
it was
at church.
Father's Day.
Yeah.
Which was
'cause
already
his birthday and Father's Day, and then his
all
anniversary all within a month or something.
Yeah, like 6 weeks, yeah. I mean, the year of first was quite, it was a strange year because it's like, I don't know if you felt the same, but like I don't think you really feel things as deeply because you're kind of ticking off a list. Oh, this is the first Christmas. This is the first New Year's. Remember at New Year's going, wow, this is the first year without having Dad in it.
Yeah.
And then there was...
It's still a bit surreal, hey? You're almost still a little bit in denial?
Yes. Well, I feel that's exactly how I felt a bit in the first year, because I'm like, oh, I'm just that's weird. Dad's not here. Like,
Yeah.
just ticking off this list, and it's everyone's birthday, and then it's Easter, and then it's all of the events. But yeah, it got to Father's Day, and then I saw you guys, and I was like, oh, this one's a bit hard. And his birthday, this is hard. Like, and then, yeah, and then the 12 months happened. And then...
Because Father's Day is September in Australia.
Yeah.
It's different around the world.
Oh, yeah.
In the US, it's different.
And Dad passed on the 14th of September. So it was... Yeah, so it was Father's
Just
Day,
after.
and then it was like, okay, now this is 12 months since he passed. And, you know, we had that really nice moment in the ocean, and also just like, well, that went really fast. Like, it feels like it happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, 12 months is gone. But for me, once all of the checklist had happened, I feel like grief just started all over again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, the reality of, oh, this is life now. Like, I've done it once. This is now going to repeat itself over and over and over and over again.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah. And he's not going to be a part of... And then because we knew my brother was getting married, so he wasn't at the wedding, and I'm not married, so I was like, maybe he won't walk me down the aisle, and all those big things you think of. But now I'm like, but all of the everyday stuff, I've done a year of it now. This is going to repeat itself over and over. And that kind of, pulled me back a bit. And then I found myself getting more emotional since September.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling, all of the things. And I'm like, what? A whole year has gone by, and now I'm just... Not
Now
that I
I'm
wasn't
feeling
feeling it, but like,
Yeah.
it's just like I get caught off guard. I see a movie or like see something or talk to someone, and then all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed with emotion, or I'm frustrated and angry, or like my emotions kind of showed their head more after 12 months, which I thought was a very weird reality for me. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. That was a bit strange.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Grief never leaves us. It's now a part of us.
No. And like, it's weird because I feel like the first 12 months is now, because I think I've gone through it. I'm like, oh, I feel like it's getting harder now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's also a strange thing. But then I think as time passes, but then also I find myself looking back at time with Dad and everything, and looking more fondly on those memories, like the story in the hospital and things like that. Like, now I look and I go, I actually, as so awkward and funny and weird as it was, I'm like, I actually kind of like that. Like, it's just really funny.
Yeah.
To have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we've made it this far without crying.
I know.
Yes. Nothing wrong with tears, but Emma and I are criers, so I think this
I'm
is
actually
good.
really surprised. I think, do you know what I think it is? I actually enjoy talking about him.
Yeah.
So I think
It's so important.
yeah, like when I'm by myself sometimes, or if it's like sometimes it will be like in worship at church, or like a devotion's happening, and I'm not chatting or talking about him. I'm just thinking about him or reminiscing. I'll get emotional. But as soon as I get to like have a conversation about him, it's like he's here, like his memory's still alive and everything. So I think it actually brings me a bit of joy.
Yeah.
So maybe that, I don't know, because, you know, we're talking about funny stories to do with him, and and I actually really enjoy that.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Tell us, what was I going to say? How do you like to celebrate Geoff now? How do you guys do that as a family? How do you do that by yourself? How do you plan to do that moving forward?
Yeah, well, we had dinner together at Dad's favourite Thai restaurant. That was 12 months after he passed.
12-month dinner.
Yeah, we have 12-month dinner. And To be honest, like as a family, we've all journeyed very differently.
Yes.
So for my mum, I feel like we're only just starting to get into the the process of even like getting rid of his stuff, and like you know, like it's been a bit of a journey for her. And so like
She's
think
still in the home.
yes, yeah. So I think like for her, like coming out of it now, I feel like she's finally starting to see the light, I guess, in the whole situation. So yeah. And then like, yeah, my brother, you know, he just kind of snapped into, all right, I've got to do, this is my life, and I'm going to get married, and I'm going to do all of that stuff. And then my sister's also processing in her own way. And then for me, like I just went like, yeah, I kind of went back into doing work and everything. But for me, I think the way for me would be the feet in the ocean every year. I think we'll probably end up doing dinner every year as well. But I actually try and talk about him as much as I can.
Yeah.
And make people know that it's okay. Because even at school, like it was really nice. There was some management bought flowers on that day and brought them into the staff room.
Oh.
Yeah, because they were like, you know, we know, and you know, they shared with me, you know, we miss your dad walking in and, you know, keeping us up to date with what's happening in the high school and rah, rah, rah. And it caught me off guard and I got really emotional. But at the same time, yeah, I was like, thank you so much. Like, gave me the opportunity to talk about him. And so, and a lot of people were there too. So it was really nice because I said that out loud. And so people who did know Dad make effort to talk about him.
Yeah.
So like we'll have, we had like our spring carnival day. And so there was a barbecue on, and you know, one of his teacher mates was like, oh, you know that Geoff would have been on that barbecue, you know, and I just appreciate that so much. So I think for me, it's just like when I can talk about him, that's celebrating him.
Yeah.
I got a tattoo.
Oh, you did too.
Yeah.
Show us the tattoo.
You can see. It's actually his handwriting. So
And how did that come about? Tell us. It was a note he left you.
So because we worked together.
Just before we wrap up.
Yeah, if we didn't see each other during the day, I'd always come back to my desk and there'd be a Post-it note and Dad's just said, I love you, Dad. And he would just put them on my desk all the time, to the point that I'd just see and go, oh, that's nice, and then chuck it in the bin. Sounds terrible, but yeah, I was like, oh, thanks, Dad.
Well, you don't keep 100 words of Post-it notes saying the same thing.
So I was like, thanks, Dad, that's great. But yeah, he put one on my desk once, and I must have just stuck it to a book and then put the book next to another one, and it was just kind of hidden. So unintentionally, I kept one, and yeah.
And you found it later.
I found it later, and I just kept it.
I can put that as a tattoo.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting. So it's his words, his actual handwriting
On your heart.
on my heart.
Yep.
It says, "I love you, Dad." So it's like two ways. It's Dad saying I love you, and I'm saying I love you, Dad.
So special.
So it's very special. So that's one way.
I was going to get a tattoo with my mum's birthday.
Yeah.
Because we had a thing where she always sees her birthday in the analog clock, like 7/17, July 17th. And so 7/17 just became a family thing that we'd always see. Oh, look, 7/17. And we still see it now. Ryan sees it as well. And we always point it out. So that's our little way of remembering her everywhere. We see the numbers.
Yeah.
So I was meant to get that. I got a voucher for my 30th birthday. It's now 5 years on and I still haven't got it. And now I'm pregnant. My belly's stretching.
Yes.
Anyway. But that's so beautiful.
I know.
So
I never
glad you got
thought that I'd ever get a tattoo, but here you go.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
So in wrapping up, what would you tell our listeners who are also going through anticipatory grief that could help them, or what you found most helpful? Yeah, some advice.
I think it's really important to talk. I mean, if you have I think it's really important to find other people that you feel safe with, where you can share everything. Because I think the thing I really found helpful talking to a psychologist was I could say what I really felt and thought about the situation.
Yeah. Can't do that with everybody.
Yes. So, and then you can get it off your chest, and then you can have someone talk back to you and say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but this might be, anyway, helps process that.
Yeah.
Because and then the surrender thing. I mean, having a faith thing is, I think, a way to understand that. But I think also to letting go of holding on to everything or every part of what's happening. To do what you can in the moment and, to solve any problems or whatever, but to carry the whole burden of what's happening. If there's any way that you can release that or let go of that, I think that was the most helpful thing for me. For me too, it was literally just I had to just say all right, take this off my shoulders. I'm letting go of this. I'm giving it over to you. I verbally had to say it, and I did actions. I would be let it go, let it go. Yeah.
Multiple times?
Every day, multiple times. And sometimes I would carry it around with me, and then other times I'd actually feel a bit of a weight's lifted off me that day.
Right. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, and other days I'd be I'm just carrying the weight, and I can feel it. I think about it all the time. I'm then not nice to people. I was and which is okay too. But I just think that process of actually, letting it go. Because, when it's a shock and it just happens, but if there's a journey to go through in order for that person to not be with you, there's a lot of weight in that too. There's a lot of gifts in that, but there's a lot of weight in that too. And so I think for me, that would be my biggest advice, is Beautiful. To kind of if you can.
Learn how to let it go, surrender.
Because I found it was so much easier when it did happen, that I wasn't carrying. And I was able to not just move, not move on, but just okay, life is still continuing, and I didn't carry things with me as much as other people in our family and that I saw around me carrying.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for chatting today.
Hey, thanks for
having
me.
You so much.
I love you too.
It's been so nice being able to be there for each other and go through this together and have someone who understands.
Yes.
Because it's so important and so helpful.
Oh my gosh, you and Ryan, definitely. That was another thing that was so helpful, was talking to people who have experienced it. Because I remember asking you questions and going, do you guys actually feel this way, or did you?
Yeah, chat in the ocean.
Yeah, that chat in the ocean.
How's that?
I know.
You're in the ocean, chatting about your dad and about all the feels.
I know.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much.
No worries. So get yourself some good friends you can chat to, and I hope you found this helpful, and I just want to thank you again, Emma, for sharing your story and your dad with us, and all your tidbits and advice and everything. So if you found this helpful, let us know. But also, if you know someone who's also going through their own anticipatory grief, the best thing you could do is share this episode with them. Share good grief. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time. Ciao.
Bye.